call this finance meeting to order at 7:02.
You mind pulling the mic a little closer? Ready to sing again?
No more singing.
Ready.
So we have a list from Taylor, and I hope you guys brought this stuff.
Okay.
Okay, because I didn't remember that. You guys want to start? Because I know Taylor will be longer.
She's saying you're winded? Hold on, I'm looking for Taylor's email.
I should just.
Oh, I have
It's
Taylor's.
actually Carla's email last,
Yeah.
probably, because she was the last one to reply.
I just meant the one that you was going to talk about from police fire. Maybe, I don't remember.
Okay, so I think code, we're good on, weren't we? I mean, I don't think there's anything,
I don't think we had to
yeah, I don't think there's
do
anything,
anything.
but I do believe there was some police.
Police and fire, there's definitely, yeah.
Well, fire, I thought we already done, which was just.
We did the 99, we did that the last time.
Yeah, then I think.
Oh,
it was
you're right. It's
The
just
software,
Mhm.
we did that. So
Did we do-
fire was good.
I think it
We
was
had
just
was
the police
just the
stuff we
police.
did before.
We had the 28K from the utilities meeting for the GIS system.
Right. That's what it was.
I believe I'm going from memory here, I believe the plan was to move it to the finance committee.
Yes. Real quick, before we get started with all the breakdown of that, we're painting the police department, the fire department's redoing their floor. They've scraped all the view off. They're gonna put down epoxy paint, and all the labor's free. We're gonna be putting new flooring down in the police department, some VCT tiles, some vinyl planking. It's all pretty inexpensive stuff, and especially the labor's free. Any of the tools that you need to cut is, I have. So I would like to ask the city council to appropriate $1,500, and which would just be reimbursable receipts, and whatever is not spent can go right back to the general fund. So if anybody has any objections to that.
You said 1,500, right?
Yes.
Would that be general fund?
Yeah, so, and basically, I don't know if it'd take the whole 1,500, but, as I buy flooring material, if I just bring Taylor a receipt, we have a little set to the side for that, just for reimbursement of material only. All our labor's free.
So it looks like we have at least 200,000, am I reading that right? In the
And-
general fund?
Oh, as of today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't run the last payroll. Well, these are really loud. We haven't run the last payroll for this month. In the general fund, that usually 30 or 40, so we're probably in around 160, 175.
I would say we're good with 1,500.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, that'll just help you, pay for material only. I've already taken care of the paint, so we're good.
If it makes it easier, I mean, I don't want to get in the way of if it's not broken, don't fix it. But if it makes it easier, they can just, when they, like, let's say I don't know what they're buying, I guess paint, is it? You said the
I already
paint
took
guy.
Flooring. So like flooring,
So if they go to buy flooring, they could just ask Scott to go through the purchasing process and take a card just to go swipe it. And they would just bring the receipt.
and that's fine too. That'd be good, because some of the flooring, like I bought the flooring for Scott's office, and
Nice, not me, the other guy.
Oh,
Other Scott. I was Chief, I got you.
so,
This guy doesn't get anything
and
there.
I got everything that Athens Lowe's had, so, we're gonna do the same flooring. It's a very nice light colored,
I got you.
oak plank look, but it's, so the rest of it I had to go to Parkersburg to get, because they only had 3 boxes at that was. A couple hundred boxes in Parkersburg.
I got you.
So,
And just to say, I mean, I don't think this has been done for like what, 10, Corey, how long have you been here? 10, 15 years probably since they
Yeah, I don't
moved?
know.
Yeah, you know what?
So it's not something that we spend money on every year.
No, it's not.
If I could
Oh,
add,
you won't, you won't.
the facility as a whole hasn't been upgraded in many years.
Right.
You know, a couple things that I would like to look at, you know, more immediate as winter comes is lighting for the parking lot out here, which is insignificant in terms of material, less than $200. However, the cost is going to be on the labor side. So I don't have quotes, but just in general, the buildings, yes, in general, the building, I mean, as we can see, we have our carpet here. So one of the things we're starting to learn with CARES monies, different things that we can purchase to use for upgrades. So one example is bathrooms. So we're looking at getting quotes for the bathrooms to make them, I don't want to say COVID compliant because I don't think that's the right word, but everything would be touchless, which you could use CARES money for. So we're using CARES money to start doing some of the upgrades, but another couple of things that I would like to do in the future is to get this flooring in here replaced, and as well as on the door here where the water office is outside there when you pull in, it's that old green tile that has calcium building up and growing down the tile. So it'd be nice just to put something over and paint that. Nothing fancy, just something less dirty.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, I don't see any problem with the 1,500. It's probably less than 100 a year if it hasn't been touched in 15 years, so.
Yeah, it hasn't been touched in a long time.
Typically in the
Just
budget,
wanna-
it's $2,000, if I recall. $2,000 total for the year for facility.
Yes, for the whole of City Hall, not even just PD. So the 1,500 would be PD specific?
No, PD and fire department, so, because the
Oh.
fire department's gonna buy epoxy paint and they're painting their floors.
Right.
And then the rest of them.
So, should we put it in the City Hall wide facilities line item, or should it be department specific, I guess?
So, yeah, if you guys wanna do the whole PO number with, sign out a credit card, that's fine too.
I think the city hall and building improvement fund would be a cleaner transaction.
And
Yeah,
then it
I
can
agree.
encompass the other, you know, the carpet, the things outside. It could cover that kind of stuff too when we do that line item. So
Absolutely.
I think that'd be fine.
In fact, if there's any left over out of that 1,500, if you don't have any objection, I would just put that toward fixing this carpet or that out there, but we can give it back, whatever you guys want to do.
Really? Yeah, it's fine, I mean, you know, because also there's some stained tile.
I think we should give it back and bring it up one at a time so that we kind
That's
of
fine.
know, keep track, you know what I mean? Just keep a list of.
Oh, yeah, keep it clean, that's good.
That sounds good.
So we'll do the flooring,
I think it's called City Hall repairs. I need to go get an expense report. I left it over there.
I mean, a budget?
Yeah, we should just call it, yeah.
and, hey, can I get reimbursed for the flooring I bought today?
That's a donation. Thank you.
God, I already donated the paint. Get a labor.
Or no?
And we appreciate it, Dan. Thank you.
Okay, so if you want to move on, I think it was.
Yeah, we can move on.
Stuff,
624.
because I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, let me pull that.
Scott, do you have any way to turn the air on?
And you to go.
Do you want me to do it? or-
Yes, please.
I mess with it every day, so I might be better.
Thank you.
It
Might
gets
be just
hotter
the
on my side of
mask
the building than in the other side.
making it hot too.
Just gotta look at your damper, see if there's a
We
vent on that
Thank you.
thing.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
Let's see,
Oh, yeah, that's good. Thank you.
I think that you.
Answer families.
Okay, we're ready.
Am I up or?
Yep, you're up, Taylor.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Oh, these are super loud. The first one is, I just wanted to remind the committee about Church Street. This ran through once, but got dropped somewhere. I think we did forward it on for writing, but it didn't make it in the ordinance.
I looked in my notes and it said check later. I don't know if we was waiting on something to come through or what, but that's what I had written down for that meeting was check back later.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I didn't bring it forward correctly. So if we cover the whole project for the year, actually, will it finish this year?
Church Street?
Yeah, it's getting kind of late.
Should.
Okay, so 500,000 is roughly the total project cost. Most of it is FEMA EMA money. The city pays 12.5%, which is roughly 62,500. That's going to be a little bit of a hard one on the capital improvement fund, but we've committed to it a year past. So because all the money runs into the city and we write the check, the full amount has to be appropriated, because under governmental accounting, it still counts as all city expenses and revenues.
So and just to clarify then, so on Monday, it'll state on there, 500,000 is the appropriation.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now the money's from FEMA's already there. We have it.
Nope.
We haven't accepted it yet.
We have, so the process for most of the FEMA projects is, this has actually been a really, is there a polite word for it? It's just been a problem. The state's been super behind because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
We get the invoice and then we honestly, I guess I probably shouldn't say this with the mics on, but we honestly try to slowly get the check out because we're waiting for the state money to get here.
Sure.
Some of these invoices, like for the Wood Lane Bridge project, are like $190,000.
Right.
And we don't write checks like that here unless the money's already here.
Right.
So we've been slowly doing it, but EMA FEMA has been very slow.
So I guess just to provide a little perspective, it's been 8 months since we submitted the final, 8 weeks, disregard, 8 weeks since we submitted the final paperwork for the Wood Lane slip, and we still haven't received payment for it yet. It's coming soon. And we have, as Taylor said, roughly $200K to the company that did it that we owe them, and they're getting very frustrated to the degree where they threaten. Well, maybe not threaten, but they're looking at what options they have. For example, a lien against the city. So last I talked to them, I offered that we may be able to pay them something, and not the full amount, but I haven't heard back from them to see if they even entertained our offer. I told them exactly where the money was at. We talked to our FEMA representative in Columbus. So it's just going through the process, and the process is slower than normal due to COVID.
Much slower. Like
Significant, double, triple.
like 19 days to like 75 days.
Did they give you
From
any
submission.
timeline at all as to when our money will?
So we have money. So we have monies for 2 different projects coming in. So we have a check coming in for Riverside Drive. We also have another check coming from Wood Lane Drive. We're supposed to get the first check, I believe, from Riverside Drive, which is a smaller amount. I think that's 100K. That one should be in the next 2 weeks or less. So, and then, but if I understand correctly, the bill's already been paid, so that would be 100K in.
I don't remember which invoice it's for, but you might be right.
And then,
I mean, like
I think so. Yeah, didn't mean to put you on the spot. I think so. That's the case.
There's a lot of invoices we're waiting for them to pay. That's why I'm like, I don't have it memorized.
And we have a lot out to Stantec as well. Actually, not that many left to Stantec. We've been keeping up on all that. But, the company is so far working with us. They haven't done anything negative to the city yet or adverse to the city. And should they want to make that move, I'll bring it to your attention. But as of now, we are still waiting on funds, and they know where we're at waiting on funds.
So, and to put a nightcap on that, if I could, just a little bit off to the right of that conversation, one of the reasons I've pumped the brakes so hard on capital improvement expenditures or appropriations that aren't already reimbursed or getting reimbursed, so in other words, just additional expenditures, is because the amount we're waiting for is far higher than our total capital improvement amount of money it has. So we have more invoices written against that fund than we have money in it.
Yeah.
So that's why we so desperately need EMA to get those checks here. And that's one reason why, there's been lots of conversation about different things we could do since I've taken over as auditor from capital improvement. But particularly, I'd say since the pandemic started, you probably have heard me more than once, like pump brakes on, okay, hold on, because we have too much going on at once there. Not of our own problem. It's just we're having to adjust to the state's backlog, if that makes sense.
So this says we have like 231,000 in there. Are we anticipating any more? I mean, not from reimbursement, but just general revenue to come into that fund? or no?
So if you, actually, I'm glad I brought a revenue report. So I can tell you, since we're halfway through the year, capital improvement brings in 5% of our income tax money, which so far is roughly $43,000. So the hope would be for the next 6 months. I guess we're most of the way through July, so it won't be a full 6 months, but roughly 35 to 40,000 in revenue.
So the 62,000 is gonna take a little chunk out of it.
Correct. It's gonna be smaller than what it is now. I think the budgeted final tally was 179, I want to say. But I can't remember. Have we added major expenditures there this year? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Not recently.
I don't think we have a choice to go ahead and just move on with the 62,000 though, right?
Correct. Yeah, Church Street is a project already in motion.
Okay, so we might as well just check that off the list.
Anyway, okay, sorry.
And just keep us updated on when the checks come in on that stuff.
I think we're waiting in over 200 from Riverside and maybe 100 from Wood Lane, or is Wood Lane all paid?
It's 230 or 220 something for
Riverside.
No, Wood Lane. Riverside's 100 plus.
Yeah, it's
And
substantial.
one of those is already paid, so we'll get that money back.
We hope.
Yes.
I can't remember which invoice, but
Which ideally I'd like to, if we can, make a payment to those other folks if they push the issue. But right now they're not pushing the issue since I talked to them last.
point two, oh, are you guys okay with it moving appropriation forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Church, okay. Point two is 18,000 from sewer fund 750 for OWDA loan 8223. This was all part of the sewer project plan. We pay this payment, I think, 3 times, so like 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. And then it gets either lumped into the final construction loan or it's one of those loan forgiveness ones. But we basically have to make the payment until construction finishes. It was not included in the budget Gary and Chuck brought forward. So the money came, if I'm being honest, the money came out of the bank because it's automatic. OWDA doesn't ask for permission the state doesn't ask for permission to take their money, they just take it.
All right.
And so we can't mark the books though because that line item has $0 in it. So we need to, the exact total was 17,800. So if you guys are okay with that.
Yep.
It was in the sewer plant financing plan, financial future plan, or they had some fancy title for it, but so that was expected.
And so it's already paid. We just need to make it official on the books.
Yep.
Yep.
And we can, so in the past practice is the office that this auditor's office would mark it as negative. And we do that some. We try to only limit it to payroll related expenses because I'm not going to hold somebody's paycheck to wait for an appropriation for OPERS or something. But when it comes to stuff like this, I would prefer not to make the books all kinds of messy and have to fix it up later for something that we can just get through a meeting. So point 3 is, I'm sure Scott can explain better why the sewer plant has a fuel budget for just regular fuel. This year, they've been running a lot of generators and pumps.
Yeah, we talked about this in the utility meeting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We already did.
Okay, so you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. And we asked, it was $5,000. Scott had asked me to just, we had talked about just appropriating another 5. I figured if there's going to be pumps and generators, just give it an extra, just do 6 and we won't have to talk about it again until next
Does
year.
that come out of the sewer fund though, or what?
Yes.
They should come out soon.
Yep. 750 fund. And I've got the line item on my email here. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. That's the WDA one.
I don't see it, but okay.
And I do expect that we will be returning some of that money back to you. I just didn't want to have to come back and ask again for more fuel as this project winds down. So once they get done doing the Chestnut portion of the project, then we'll be able to shut down those pumps, and because it'll be pumping from our new lift station that's already been installed. So those extra precautions that we're running right now due to construction will come to an end.
Point 4, so I was asking the committee for permission to decrease rents leases and contract services line items and transferring, my thought was 1,000 or 1,500 to office supplies. So we're over budget in the line items I'd like to decrease, at least so far slightly, and could use the money for two things. One is, I made the decision to keep the new employee over in my office in my universe, in my side of the office. I didn't want to put her over in the old deputy auditor's office. We call it the dungeon for a reason. And I personally feel that the treasurer's position, since it's an elected position, it's always been tossed around sort of like just to get whatever corner of City Hall is available. And I felt that if we get that cleaned up and fix the desk and drawers that were broken by the investigators, he could have his own office with a key to it. Like I believe an elected official who works all the books here. I know he is very appreciative of it, and he was just working at a table, just like a table in the auditor's office.
In the hallway or something, like back there in the back, right?
Kind of, yeah, back towards the back door. And now, so Cindy's actually working at that table, and we'd like to get her a desk, and the cheapest of like an actual desk with drawers is, I mean, it's kind of expensive.
Well, so let's talk to Hockman College, because she's actually
Who?
redoing some classrooms,
Who did you say?
Hockman College.
No,
Cindy, so she's the new employee,
who's Cindy?
the part-time.
Oh, I didn't know we hired one.
Yeah, so when we, when we restructured back in,
Oh, I remember you was going to, I just didn't know you did.
yeah, we finally did.
So, yeah, they're separating some classrooms, I guess, and getting rid of it. And I heard that she has quite a few desks over there.
Oh, yeah, we would love to.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So maybe you can go over there and even pick out
Yeah.
nicer ones, you know.
The one in the old deputy auditor's office could be fixed. I don't want to, I would prefer, he doesn't have any supply line items, the treasurer. I would prefer not to, buy a whole new one. We could just fix it. It's humongous
Oh,
too.
no, buy them. Maybe we require 2 from over there, just
Okay, yeah.
free.
I mean, yeah, if there's
So you don't want
availability.
to put Cindy in the dungeon, but you put Michael. Okay.
I know, poor Mike, he's probably watching
Sorry,
too.
Mike.
Mike's probably, is he watching?
He already commented.
What, does he not like the idea?
I don't know, he just said you want to put me in the dungeon.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, Mike. Well, I figured, I really do believe he should have his own office with a key, and that way he can come in anytime and his stuff can be locked away. And in general, if you're asking my personal opinion, the treasurer was used as an accessory of the auditor's office, and that caused some of our problems. This is no offense to any past treasurers. I think there was a lot of things people were pressured by that individual to listen to or do. At one time, the treasurer had just a table in the storage room, so there were just like boxes around them. I just really think he should get that office. And Cindy's going to work a lot with the cash window like Robert does, so she can be right there. I think it works better.
Nice. Okay, sounds good.
So I should ask, do we have any questions?
Nope, the only question we have out here in Facebook land is any news on how much the city brought in from income taxes?
That's one of his line items, I think, so.
I do have news on that.
Okay. Well, I'll let you stay on task here, because I think that's one of your other points here.
Yep.
And we'll get round to that.
So are you guys okay with moving some of those line items to help with Mike and Cindy, or
Yeah, because it also sounds like in what you emailed here, it sounds like you're going to be really kind of cleaning up, some of the line items anyway, and identifying them better, a little bit more transparency. So I think at the end of the day, that's ultimately what we need. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'll look at the door tomorrow.
Yeah, the door's totally, it needs fixed.
I'll look at the door tomorrow, see what we do.
Okay, thank you. Carla, do you have
Oh, yeah.
thoughts
No, I
or
agree.
questions?
No,
Okay. I think it'll be really good. I think Mike will like it. I'm sure he'd love a window, but we'll get there one day, right?
We can put a painting up.
There we go.
Make it look
That'll
like
have to be a
it's
spotlight.
We can get some of the useless filing cabinets out of there. Anyway, the next one is, so if you guys have looked closely at your budget, I don't know what the prior administration's goal was here. There's $25,000 set aside for the city prosecutor. That is the cost of the city prosecutor a year. The system's not set up to charge that line item. I don't know.
That money just sits in that account?
There's just 25 still sitting in that line item, not unspent. So Gary, Mr. Hunter,
Was spent though on here, like in 2014, it says it was actually 22,000 spent out of that department.
well, see, here's, and maybe the committee has a better suggestion than I have. Maybe you guys have a better suggestion. I'm okay with whatever, honestly. So Gary's line items, we pay Gary, Mr. Hunter, and then he pays the city prosecutor, whatever that fee is. And we get a check out to Mr. Hunter every month. So his line items are like 70, 80% used because everything's coming out of his, because that's where he gets paid from. Then there's a 25,000 sitting for prosecutor. I'm like, the system's not trained. Like, I guess it's hard to explain how the system's built, but it's built for our budget. It's currently not trained to take from it. If you'd like me to just pay the rest of the year, Mr. Hunter, from it, it's kind of a ass backwards way to do it, but just.
Yeah, but it should come out of Gary's line item because that's how we're paying. We're not paying directly to the prosecutor.
That's how I feel.
So it shouldn't come. I think what you put here is probably the way it should be. So you should pull it from that line item, move that over, so reduce that to 0, get rid of it, and then add that to Gary's line item because that's ultimately where it's coming from.
Yeah, just initially, you read the whole line.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess that was my question, though. It says it was actually spent. So does that mean they just took it from
They
that
probably
line
did.
item?
Yeah,
Put it
see,
somewhere else
They
where it was
probably,
just spent?
they probably appropriated
what-
from that line item over to Gary's is what I'm guessing.
could be. What I don't understand is like, you look at 2016, it's marked down. They spent 18,000 out of it. 17, they spent 20, but his fee's been 25,000 for long before I got here. So it's just
Hard to say where
disorganized.
that line item went.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
disorganized, and
And actually,
this would just be cleaner. I know it's mid-year cleanup, and maybe that's causing work you guys don't want to do, but it just seems.
No,
I
I
don't
think
have
it's
a
fine.
problem cleaning it up. I was just curious as to where it went.
Right.
It might be best that we don't continue to speculate on that at the moment, though, because
Right.
So- tell the court date.
I don't have any. I just think it would be better to just reduce that 25 and just put the law director's salary line items what it should be for the year.
Agreed.
Yeah, I don't know why we even have that line item.
Yeah.
So, because it's always come out of the law directors.
Yes, I think since maybe the 90s. I mean, it's been a while. So, okay, so I'm going to check mark.
There's a question I'm going to answer real quick. It says, who is the city prosecutor? It's Mr. Richard Hedges.
Hedges in Athens County. And just so everybody knows, we have to pay that prosecutor, that amount, whether he works here or Athens or whatever. The city does pay that. Even if our cases get moved to municipal.
Well,
Um,
that's different from the public defender, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so we don't.
The public defender is I think if it's a Nelsonville case and that person requests the public defender, we get the bill.
He has to qualify for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of issues there with, most of them don't qualify for the public defender because it's not.
So it looks like the average you
Case.
spend on that is 18,000.
Public defender, yeah. I think it's down a little bit this year. I think I've heard across the country crime rates are down because everyone's stuck home, but I don't know if that's true. But anyway, that's just something I read in some news story.
You're decreasing in Nelsonville.
New sheriff in town.
You sure?
So the next two, it depends on how the committee wants to handle it. One is the medical line items are made for what our anticipated medical insurance costs were from last year. We, of course, have had a 15% increase plus a couple employees come on board since, employees who worked here before, but their health insurance situations changed with their spouses. I estimate around 50. I didn't spend hours on estimating that number, but I can get a number down to the dollar probably if you guys would like. But a lot of our line items are running out of money for medical. So I don't know if you just want me to bring up something forward with increasing those or show you the breakdown or just bring you the invoices and see. We pay like 30-some thousand a month, so it's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would say you probably should bring an appropriation for the full amount, but then during the meeting, we should explain what those increases, like the increase of the 15%. We're adding a multiple, employees. Anticipate we'll probably hire a couple more in the police department.
I think so.
So, that's, So I don't even know if 50,000 is gonna be enough at the end of the day.
Well, that's just for the health insurance and
Correct.
And the employees pay 15%. City pays 85%. I think state law requires at least 50. So, yeah, it's just one of the things that are super expensive, and
Mm-hmm.
we just,
So we're slowly draining the general fund though, right?
the general fund. I mean, we've had two news stories about the general fund, is how Scott and I have taken it. One is we have found lucky sources of revenue this year to the tune of $80,000 almost, I'd say, 75,000. We just got lucky on. Workers' comp returned $58,000 to us. Love that kind of news.
Yeah.
And then
33 from selling stuff.
selling stuff off the lot that was unnecessary, that we got a good bit of, like you said, a good chunk of money for. So
And then we got reimbursed for a grant that we paid up front for, and then the money came back in. I'm trying to remember exactly what grant that was
Yeah,
for
that
some
was the
reason.
Nature Works grant,
I think
wasn't
it was
Yes.
Naturals, but that was rec fund. Yep. So yes, so it's higher than what it would have been right now. It started out, you can see 85,000. It's at 200,000 as of today. But we have a lot of expenses out of general fund, and income tax, we're going to talk about later here, is not. We did not complete the year, swimming in cash, is what I'll say. So that's my long way of answering, Carla. We've been really fortunate to ride out the worst.
So is that something we don't have a choice over?
Medical insurance,
Right.
complicated answer. It has a lot to do with,
Short answer is we really don't have a choice if we're gonna keep
Short
our.
answer's good.
Yeah,
okay.
we really don't have a choice if we're
The
gonna
short,
keep our.
let me just add on, the shortest I can make my answer is labor contracts, employee benefits, employer share. Council pretty much can decide all those things. It depends on what your
It
trade-offs are.
sounded like a lot, but.
Yeah, it is.
It is a lot.
I think our total yearly expected medical insurance cost was $390 something, and it's gonna end up being $400 something. So 400 something, yeah. So we pay a lot in insurance
Which we'll need to review anyway,
before December 1st.
before December 1st. So keep that in your mind for one of our finance meetings, so we'll have to start.
So you can just let us know when you have them for us to review, or, right? Because you guys get them,
We
right?
can, yeah.
Or, I mean, who
I don't
does?
have a ton of experience in insurance shopping as an employer. So if anybody had ins or strategies about where to look, I think Corey probably is well experienced in that world, but.
Yep, we'll get you started on that and we'll.
So vendors have reached out to,
actually help
What is
guide
it?
you through. There's companies out there that actually help guide you through the.
Yep.
They're like an insurance broker.
Yeah, they are.
They guide you through the different plans.
Yep.
So I guess it's just whatever the employees are looking for.
There was some discontent from, in my opinion, 3 or 4 individuals with the increase this year. Excuse me. But a lot of people expressed a lot of understanding. I think sometimes folks underestimate our employees. Not in this room, I just mean in the city, because like a lot of them perfectly understood. They were like, yep, our spouse's health insurance increase was 22%. Ours is 15%. That's better than theirs. So
Oh, yeah.
we're sticking with that one. So they understood that the market was really bad this year. Is that a good? I think that's the.
you know,
correct-
it.
Okay, I think that's the correct perspective. The next thing. Anybody jumping in? I have a lot of stuff here.
You're good. Proceed.
Clean up and how to handle it.
Yeah, so we have a lot of line items that have run negative. So if you think about situations we would have never expected, almost all of them payroll related. So in the police department, it takes time to get from OPERS, which is a part-time pension for police, to full-time police and fire pension. So 2 different pensions. So when our part-time moves up to full-time, we would like to get them switched as quickly as possible to OPNF, Ohio Police and Fire. They have to get a physical, they have to get a doctor's sign-off, an X-ray, EKG. It takes time. So we've had officers move from part-time to full-time, and they're ringing up OPERS charges in the budget, but we don't budget anything for OPERS and police because of full-time police, because they're OPNF. Does everybody follow me here?
So we've moved them to full-time, but they're still paying into OPERS until all those medical things are taken care of.
Right.
Then they go.
And it can take a while. I mean, it can take 3-4 payroll cycles. We would like to be getting to a process where it's done before they're there, but as you guys know, this year we haven't always been given that option.
But shouldn't the line item be OPERS just across the board, regardless if they're full-time or part-time at that point?
Well, it could be organized that way. Yes. The organization of this budget could be better. Yeah.
Okay.
So it could just say employee pensions, and then I could charge it OPERS or OPNF. If you see what I'm saying, when
then
you
would
label
break
it
it out underneath that headline though.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the way it's set up, I can't charge the pension line item for a full-time police officer if they're still paying into OPERS and they haven't moved up to OPNF yet.
If we change the line item to pensions, then you could just break it down accordingly from there.
Yeah, and I am certain that when we all start and deepen the budget discussions, it's going to fund the same city. It's going to look very different for you guys because of stuff like that. So that's just the first example. If I opened up my budget, police is the first one on the expense report. That's the first negative one. We have examples like that all over where the city manager before, another OPERS problem. City manager before did not pay into OPERS. He should have. He didn't.
Right.
Whatever. Leave that.
1099, wasn't it?
1099, correct. So Scott is an employee the way it should be done. He's paying into OPERS. His line item's negative because I'm not going to hold his check for full discussion on every negative line item, if that makes sense. So I guess I know Hunter's suggestion has been in the past, council can pass an ordinance that allows us to just bring negatives up to where they should be.
Right. We usually do it at the very end of the year.
Yep.
So it's all,
Yeah.
so everything balances out.
Yep.
So
It would be easier if it's usually the last meeting. It would be easier if it was before then, because it does take a little bit of input into the system. And the last meeting can be within a week or two of the end of the year when books should be closed.
okay. So like are you asking like maybe the first meeting in December or the last meeting in November? Well, actually, we're probably only going to have one meeting in November with.
Yeah. It's up to you guys. If you guys want to pass it at the end, I got advice that our version of the ordinance was not sufficient from the state auditors.
Okay.
I don't know. It's up to you guys. Maybe we should just talk to Hunter about how to do it best.
Well, I like the idea. You're going to need to have all those line items still on there through the end of the year, and then have them zero so you can zero them out. And then effective January 1, you'll start anew with all the new line items, the clean version of it, where everything's cleaned up and much more transparent. And you have a true understanding of what this means.
Yep.
And
Get rid of miscellaneous.
yes,
Yep.
the $25,000 of miscellaneous that no one could seemingly explain.
Yep.
What that was used for, but surprisingly,
Right.
it was used a lot. It was
Right.
used a lot.
We used it today. We paid the pest control guy. He's always got paid out of it, and he was here. He gave us an invoice.
And it would be much better suited under a line item titled facility maintenance.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. So, yeah, I think. So
maybe that's just a discussion for the fall.
Pensions, and
I
then,
think pensions, and then that way, it can be broken out earlier and just.
Yeah.
You know.
Because and I can ask Hunter how it should be worded in the ordinance. Maybe it can just say all OPERS and OPNF line items should just be called employee pension cost or something like that, or employee pension or pensions, whatever. I mean,
well, because that would include council members too.
Yep.
Elected officials, they're paying into OPERS.
it would still stay under their current. It would be too hard to merge all that stuff here in the budget. It would be easier under each department, change their, especially the problem ones, like not the problem ones, but the ones where this is happening, like the city manager's budget and the police budget, and not so
So you're saying then they would be under police, it would say pension, employee pensions.
Yes.
Okay, but then when you break it all down though, under the pensions title though, you're still going to have police and fire and no PERS and show what was spent for each line item, right? For your part-timers and full-timers. I mean,
yes. Well, and so, and I can do that. If you pass it that way, I can't, it defeats the purpose of calling it pensions, because if you pass it, the language specific, as in PERS and OP&F, I can't move that, I can't merge that money.
I see.
So if you merge it under pensions, we can just spend from that.
So in other
pensions.
words, base have pensions, our budget would have pensions.
Yeah.
Council's budget would have pensions.
And the only reason I bring this up today is because I've been talking about kind of the umbrella, I write the umbrella expectation, the framework for the budget as we move into late summer. I thought this would be a helpful conversation to show how we could more effectively organize our budget so everybody can not just understand it, it's almost illegible. Even for our department heads, sometimes they look at it and they're like, what does this line item even mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And like,
and they're not sure what they're allowed to use the money for.
yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe get rid of the ones that have never been used, is that what you mean?
Yes, exactly.
Clean the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't be the same?
That's my hope. Yeah, I think that, and this is just the stuff you learn when in my position. The reason they left all these blank ones I found is because the software that we use has to maintain a line item once you make it forever. You can never delete it. I believe it or not. You never delete it. It has to read it even as zero. But in our reading of this budget, this is a handmade document. This doesn't print from our software. This one I gave you does, the one that looks nicer, but the spreadsheet one doesn't. So it's like we could delete all of those meaningless line items so that we don't have to read, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
No, I get it.
so if you guys were okay, I mean, I could approach Hunter about how can I change some of these line items to be more general.
Would it be better though to leave it, like you said, with both, so someone don't say, well, what does pensions mean?
We could, and you guys could pass an ordinance at the end of the year of authorizing me to just clean it up.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's up
think we
to you
should
guys.
definitely clean it up. I'm kind of thinking though, pensions is nice, but I was kind of hoping that you could kind of, within that title, you can break it out, promote PERS and police and fire, so you know what you're actually spending.
Well, yeah, I thought you said you could
So-
do that though.
So
I can show it,
He
but
can
it's,
show it, he can do that, so let's say, police has their own pensions. So if you put it under pensions, he can automatically break out full-time, part-time, full-time, part-time, and when somebody gets moved up to full-time, he can automatically
Yep.
move their, over to
I see what you're
full-time.
saying. So for,
because
as far
part-time
as
But
is a
they'll still
separate.
have it broken
part-time is
down.
a
yeah,
separate-
so as far, you'll just do a report that breaks it out, but at the end of the day, it's all under pensions.
Yep.
Perfect.
In
Okay.
that department.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to make sure when you're just going through the departments, you're going to be able to tell what you're paying and.
Yeah. So his report would show,
Mhm.
okay, full-timers and part-timers, but when it being lumped into as just pensions in that department, he'll be able to say, okay, this guy gave him part-time to full-time, so he can automatically move his.
Use that money. Mhm.
So you could just actually change them easier and sooner if it's
Correct.
so under.
Correct, and not need appropriation for
For each-
doing that.
each-
Correct, for each
Yeah.
fix, or
Yeah.
what you might call
Now,
it.
what do
And
the,
this is because the way the legal framework, I don't know why this wasn't talked about when I was on council. It's something that was never mentioned here, but
well, I think we know why.
well, we might know why, right? There's a
We probably
legal,
should just move
there's
on.
several legal frameworks of a city budget can be passed under state law. Some of them are very loose and some of them are very strict. I asked, actually over the advice of city manager at the time, not Scott, I asked for the strictest legal framework, which means I can't move anything between line items ever. In the past, it was just passed by personnel and operating. So if I'm just using examples, this is not something I know of happening, but if the auditor's office ran out of money for something, they could just say the city manager has extra and the auditor has the power to move that to here. That felt disingenuous to me. So the reason we're even having this conversation is because the framework it was passed under, it's pretty strict and hard for us to work with. And I think maybe if we come up with maybe not quite meet in the middle, but just a little baby step towards more reasonable,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, I think that's good. I think that makes sense.
Yep.
The clearer, the better.
What
Yeah.
do our utility guys pay into? Is that OPERS also? Okay.
Yep.
All right, cool.
Okay. So I'll talk to him. Budget cleanup we talk about later in the year. I mentioned the framework. Scott and I have both had crazy years, so we haven't met on this yet. My hope is, and if there's better suggestions, just let me know. In the past, Gary, and I assume the deputy auditor, came up with the entire budget framework. It was submitted to the city manager. He either approved, changed, whatever, didn't approve. And then it was submitted to finance committee, typically just going over top of everybody else. My hope this year is that we will go off of big numbers and then it will leave my office. I'd like to show the projected revenue and give a sort of a range of where that leaves each department. And that number, that range, is just what I hand over to Scott and council to start, I assume Scott first, to talk to the department heads about,
Right.
hey, we spent 20,000 on vehicle repairs last year, but we won't need that this year, so we'd like that to be spent on building upgrades or whatever it is.
Right, so probably the framework of.
Yep.
Police department gets this much money.
I would like to-
Utility gets this much money, then you get with the department head and say, this is how your budget, or this is how much your budget is. Let's go through here and break down what you really think you need for this.
So my background is more like a spin plan, if you will. So Taylor will give us our left-right limits. And let's just use fire department as an example. He could go look at his usage of gloves and know that he's going to have to buy 10 pair of gloves next year. And then we budget for 10 pair of gloves based off the average. And then should we have a major emergency or fire or something else, we come back to you and say, hey, we need more gloves because of the square burning down or something. So I want to get to the where we're actually projecting ahead what we're going to spend our money on. Of course, you can't predict destroying 2 police cruisers, so but I would like it to be a lot cleaner. We have our training projected for the year. We know that we want to do this class, and this class. We don't have to know who's going to those classes, but how much are these classes based off the previous, year, and then budget for that.
I think we talked about that in police and fire, where, like the police, if they pay the money to get one of the guys certified, then he can actually teach the other ones. So,
But you do plan on budgeting per item, right?
Like line item?
Well, not like, here's $10,000 like we used to do, and we didn't really know where it went.
Like miscellaneous, or we don't want that.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, this
so
lady's-
things will be put in a line item.
right.
It's just gonna say, basically, they're gonna do the and go, all right, so here's your department, these are your line items. Figure out what you spent, what you need, blah, 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 blah. And
So within
Like
police and
Scott
fire, you
said,
won't,
though, like, it'll say
Yeah.
like gloves or.
So like
Equipment.
PPE is a good
Outfitting.
example of
Right.
what that could be called. So PPE, and then in my world, what that looks like is in addition to the line items here, the manager has a spreadsheet underneath what PPE means. So when I come to you, PPE means, and I'm more familiar with fire, 10 sets of turnouts, 20 pairs of boots, and here's why. And then as we go through, that individual report should be available as well from the manager showing, so you appropriate whatever amount of money to PPE line item. The manager shows up front exactly what that PPE looks like that you're paying for. And then if there's any variation to that PPP or PPE, why is there variation? Because I feel that the citizens in Nelsonville should know why. And again, there's very reasonable explanations. We ruined radio in PD back when we had that river rescue a while back. To me, that's fully understandable. We had a police officer in the river, his radio got wet, destroyed it. It's bad that we lost the radio, but I'm okay coming to you and asking, hey, we
Sure.
didn't budget for this because
Right.
No,
we had
that's
no
fine,
idea.
as long as it just doesn't say like general or.
Oh,
yeah, and a lot of it,
Yeah.
we already will know, we know what our payments are gonna be on a vehicle, we know what trainings are gonna be, we know roughly what equipment's gonna be.
And I'd like to
And
start
my hope-
budgeting for big repairs. One of them I learned about today. It hasn't gone to utility meeting because I just learned today, but our water wells, we have 3 water wells. Nobody knows for sure the last time they were serviced. It's supposed to be cleaned every 5 years. So out of those 3 wells, one of them is completely inoperational. So what I would like to do is to go after the one that's not operational first, which currently that's gonna be about 2,500, which is in the budget now. I can cover that for them to camera it just to see how much it's gonna be. But it could run up to $30,000. And then next year, do the next well, and then the year after, do the next well. That way they're on a schedule and we're not dishing out $90,000 every 5 years to clean wells.
And when you say well, I guess I'm not sure what that means. What is the one that we decided to go ahead and take over that costs 22,000 a year to
Water
spend?
tower.
That's a water tower.
Water tower.
We're talking about, we're talking.
And that price went up, by the way. It was 29 this year.
Right, so I don't know what it was.
So the water wells are over here by the water plant. It's actually what goes down into the ground and pulls our drinking water out and supplies it to the plant where we treat it and then supply it to the customers. So that's, there's no records, you know, so if EPA, I mean, it's an EPA problem, it's an asset management problem. And I don't want to throw that huge bill on you, so I'd like to attack the one first. And just not to scare anybody out on Facebook land, we're okay. You know, we are not short on water. This is not something that we just want to keep ignoring either, if that makes any sense.
We now have procedures to track that too.
Yes. Well, we don't have it in place yet, but you appropriated it. Well, you guys talked about it in the 28,000 we haven't talked about yet, so, in that system.
But I mean, from going forward, we're gonna have like.
Absolutely, we will have all, we should have a maintenance schedule for everything.
Should.
We absolutely should.
Preventative maintenance for vehicles, so on and so forth. I mean, we just had the vac truck treated or serviced. It was the first time it's been serviced, which by the way, they said it's in great shape. So the guys have been taking care of it. Really proud of them for that. You know, that was $3,500. You know, I would like to, you know, vehicle by department preventative maintenance and then tell you exactly what we're going to do that year for street sweeper or vac truck.
We should have a maintenance program.
It's got 2 services and we haven't hit enough hours yet to do a service, but
Right, but it's
part of our fleet management, which is the software that you guys gave us a couple months back, we'll be able to get to a point where we can start forecasting that. And I would like to get into predictive analytics instead of being reactive. So hopefully we get there soon.
I'm sorry, do we have any questions or comments?
I just,
We still have the budget one, or the income tax one that we haven't gone over yet, so.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure I follow up on, as far as framework, I didn't think of that phrase, but I like that phrase. Assuming the finance committee is okay, this would be different than how it's done in the past. Like I said, Gary would just start out and just make it. I don't know if Gary would do it personally, but that office, I should say. I'd like to give what Scott said, the left, right, the understanding of what it takes to fund all of their employees and then whatever we can afford for the whole big picture. And then basically, I don't want to know, I do care. I don't want to say it that way. It really shouldn't be my job to even look at the line items until Scott's conferred with the department heads and brought it back and make sure we didn't miss anything like, hey, we totally might have missed health
Body
insurance.
cams.
Yeah, body, you know, 50,000 in health insurance. Well, we might want to make sure that gets in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it should be 3 drafts in before I'm even looking at line items.
Well, I always say that the department heads need input on their own budget.
Absolutely.
And I would expect that since we meet so often, and Scott and myself, if nobody minds me saying, are pretty active participants in all these processes, I would think, you know, as we're going through budget drafts, I assume there's going to be like 10 of them. It's a $5 million budget. You guys are going to be seeing.
A lot, right?
Yeah, you guys are going to be seeing, you know, these things, and we're going to be talking about it. And I'd love, I'm going to put it out in public now. I'd love it passed before November, so that we're not rushing in December every year before. But
I can pretty much guarantee you it'll be December. before
yeah, it
it's
might be
passed.
December, right? But anyway,
Well, and this also addresses a concern you've shared, Carla, since I've gotten here, you know, and that is how much do we really pay a year on payments for cars and street sweepers and the brick street, you know, what are all of our payments and how much longer are they? I would like to see all those as their own individual line items so everybody knows, you know, we pay X amount of money for Jefferson Street still. And it's just as bumpy as it was back then, you know, that sort of thing.
Worse.
yes.
Yes. So, but, you know, even if the baby's ugly in that situation, I think everybody should be able to look at the budget and fully understand exactly how much we pay, how many years are left on it, and there's no confusion.
Absolutely.
That would be good.
Mhm.
I'd even like
And I would just make sure too, when we're working with our department heads on their budget, I don't want to be like a lot of government entities that, oh, well, I've still got X amount of dollars, so let's just go and spend all that money. I don't think there's necessary to do that if we're something we don't necessarily need.
Every indication of the current management team we have, they all seem to be excellent financial stewards. So I don't foresee that being an issue. And in fact, I would like to get to a point sometime where we can reward people,
Agreed.
saving, equals maybe a capital improvement, a new boat. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
No, I agree.
if you meet your budget and you stay under your budget, here's a reward for doing that, maybe it's some sort of improvement, but that's
New
a ways
flooring.
away. Yeah, like new flooring.
Okay. Are there any thoughts or suggestions on that process, or are we okay to
Nope.
start entering that this summer? Okay. I just wanted to quickly,
Number 10?
yes, I was thinking about skipping that one quickly and coming back to it. Number 11, I wanted to say Cindy is our new employee, part-time employee in the auditor's office. She has taken on a boatload of tasks right away. She says no to nothing. And
Cindy,
Miller is her name. She has experience in account collections, like with working with loans at the Ohio University Credit Union. So one big concern of mine, which Scott and I have met on, and I didn't bring it, I thought I did, was this stack, a little bit thicker than this. If you print out every water bill that owes money, it's thicker than our budget. And they print tiny text from top to bottom. So we have a collections process that's dated or non-existent for parts of the city. I don't know how to say this out loud without giving somebody the wrong idea.
It's a lot of money.
If you move, your final bill just like monopoly money, nobody pays it. And then nobody collects it. It just exists on the books forever. That is, for the record, changing this week. So if anybody thinks
are gone.
if anybody thinks they're getting away with it, but we would like to revamp the whole process into using all the city's legal powers, including sending letters threatening civil action if you refuse to pay your water bill for a year or whatever it may be when you leave, because some of these bills are digits, $1,000, $3,000. Also, I believe state law allows us, if you just refuse to pay the city for your water, we can send it to collections.
So all options are on the table, collections, whatever fees we can. And this is much broader than just the water. This is also mayor's court and a couple other places.
Income tax.
So we're looking at all options, from assessing legally what we can do as far as send to collections, what we can put on people's property tax, and then also what we can use Mr. Hunter to go sue him for. So we're taking out all the tools that have been in the drawer, and we're going to use them to get the revenue in for the city.
And every city does this, and we don't. And I don't know why.
So I can tell you right now that in mayor's court, there are several tools in the tool bag. One of them, or actually I'll give you three of them, because I asked you questions. Because, sometimes people just, I'm not showing up that early. So I asked, other successful people, if they're actually teaching the class, what can we do? What can we do to enforce that? And so we're allowed to put a warrant block on their driver's license, suspend it. You can do a warrant block on their registration, which means they can't renew it till they freaking pay the fee. Fine. Or you can put a warrant out for arrest because it is a,
Theft of service.
not theft of service, it's kind of contempt of court.
Yeah.
So those are three things you can do. Another thing is you can put on taxes.
registration would be better there. 'cause
I
it
do
won't-
think the registration is better than a
Yeah.
suspension license, because you don't drive anyhow, but if an officer can see, you got tags.
Yeah.
And they're not renewed, then he can get pulled over and then, these things,
Well, and then their license is suspended, so.
yeah, so. but
Yeah.
And a lot of
those are
this,
some things that you can do.
and a lot of this stems from code violations. People are just blowing them off. Well, the bad news for them, the those days are coming to an end as well.
Yeah, we want a clean city, so let's,
And if I could just riff on it just a little bit, we have like with water bills, I mean, if there's anybody watching and they know it's them, I'm really sorry to hurt your feelings, but we have landlords who have so much experience with tenants moving in and out. And I don't mean landlords, just individuals, I mean companies who know that if the tenant leaves and doesn't pay, that bill, it could be $100, $200, whatever it is, will be assessed to the landlord because it's the property owner. They know that if they just ignore it, nothing happens
because we haven't done anything.
because we've never done anything in the past. We have names, and it's it should be, in my opinion, confidential. I think it's actually public record, but so not to name anybody, but I looked through this delinquency list. It's $140,000 just for the last 2 years. Just for the last 2 years. If you go back to the start of time, that six figures gets much larger.
And I thought it was higher than that actually before we actually started enforcing a little bit.
I think it was higher. But the amount of people who was closed accounts is $49,000. So that's $49,000 in just people's last water bill that they just ignored. And I can tell you, I saw one rental company in town who had 22 since January 1st, 2018. And if they're watching, I doubt it because it's just a company. But we're going to bill you for it.
Wow.
We have the power to bill back 3 years. If you did not pay your final bill or your tenants didn't, we're going to bill it. And this is what makes me mad about it.
And there's late fees and everything on top of that too, right?
Correct. Yes. What makes me mad about it is there might be some folks at home watching who are concerned, say, the auditors or the city manager is going to come down and beat down for money. It's not the ratepayers, as we should call them, who this is a problem for. The folks in town who are paying their water bills are having to continuously have their rates increased because they're the only ones paying their bills. So when we lose $50,000 in revenue from final bills, that money doesn't just disappear. It's just the burden is shifted to people who are paying the bills. So honestly, I hope people realize when we roll out these efforts that this is an effort to bring relief to the folks who are paying their bill.
Because that may mean that there might not have to be an increase next
For that
year.
Exactly.
So,
And it's very frustrating. I can see just looking through the delinquency list, either most of them are very good people, but hey, if the city's not going to make you pay for it, they're not going to do it. And so it's my hope is Cindy's actually starting a on paper delinquency process. I had her, start building a flow chart today, and she said she's not a public speaker, but I'd like for her to come present at the council on what every day looks like from 11 days late to 6 months late. Not every day, but each mile marker there, because we plan to fix that.
So I have a really dumb question.
No such thing.
How did we get $240,000 in 2 years?
140. Did I say 200?
no, 140.
I said 100.
She meant,
You just
how
didn't
did we
hear
get
me.
to 140?
Oh, I'm sorry. So, 50,000 is final bills. That's 50,000 in final bills that were issued that the person just felt they could just get away with.
I guess I meant what was our actions to
Well,
go
that's-
get the money?
Oh, there was none.
In the past.
In the past, there was none. So we do issue a final bill. But if that person's bill just goes 6 months, and especially if the tenant is moved to Seattle and it's now the landlord's responsibility, it's one reason why landlords take deposits, right? I mean, there are these risks to being the property owner in the state of Ohio. I think most of the landowners know it just goes away for them. And that's not going to be the case. The city is empowered to force you to pay.
We always have been, right?
Well, so.
We always have had that power, yes. These are old powers. This is like decades ago that we've
So
been able to do this.
when we combine the two offices, of the water and auditors, supposedly we were collecting, and I don't know if we did or not, but we were collecting back bills and forcing people to pay. So, because it was a lot higher than that, right? It was a couple 100,000?
I think so.
It was a couple 100,000?
I think so. I haven't checked.
So, yeah, so I think we got it down to like 140. But yeah, so there still needs to be more of a collection effort
Mhm.
to go after those back ones.
And there's going to be
Unless you're
follow
on
up.
us for letting them get that high.
And I'm super proud of Cindy because, she's very grateful for a job. She's very grateful to work here. She worked public sector before this and was laid off, so she gets to continue paying in the PERS. I mean, I think she's very grateful to be here. And, I kind of test ballooned with her, hey, I'm not going to make you justify your existence here, but how would you feel about presenting to the city and city council this is what I'm gonna do. Here's our starting point, 140 some thousand. I want to get it to the penny. And then in 6 months after you present it, I want to show that number. I'd like it to be half, but,
Decreased.
and have her come present that because I think she's an asset and it would be a great way to introduce her to. Tough job. She's going to be in collections, but I think she's done it before. So anyway, that's going to be something I think we're all working on. Mayor's Court, water, income tax.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe you mentioned this and it just wasn't, maybe I didn't hear it. We also found that we have some folks that have old bills from 5 different residents, and we weren't tracking that.
Yep.
Now we're tracking that. Now we know, and
Same individual, 5 different residents?
yes,
They
sir.
just moved from Poplar to Chestnut, and they're able to open an account.
Now we have a list with their names.
Are they like renters? Because isn't the landlord supposed to co-sign?
And they do.
Yeah.
We require that. In my opinion, I think the tenant and the landlord knows they can get away with it because nobody tries to collect. But if there's somebody they just left a $300 bill on Chestnut Street and they're opening next week an account on Poplar, I am understanding. I believe we can still hold that debt to them just the same as the utility company would. AEP will let you open up a new account across town, but if you owe them $200, you're going to pay it.
Yeah, I think that's how I've always felt as a property owner. Because personally for me, I know that some landlords are a little different, but if I have a property and I have somebody renting, if they want to use 5,000 gallons of water a month, I don't, we don't even use that much in my house with 4 of us. So, if they want to use that, then I don't want to necessarily pay for that. So to be able to have that carry forward with them is, at least within the city, I think is a great asset from a property owner standpoint, I would say. So that's my opinion on that.
Yep, I think it'll be a lot better, and we have to. We can't just raise water rates 12% a year. We have to at some point say, listen, you use water, you got to pay for it, to the folks who aren't paying. Because like I said, I think there's people who will hear this conversation and think we're coming after them. Actually, if you're watching a finance committee meeting on a Thursday, you're not the person we're talking about. You're paying increased rates already because of these people, and they deserve more effort.
I agree.
Well, to be fair though, some of the increases are just because we never increased them in the past and we still
True.
have infrastructure that just has never
Failed.
You're right. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't explain the whole.
Right.
It's not the entire burden, but
Right.
it's enough of it.
It,
So.
it would help if it's easy.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, if you collect 140,000, that's putting a new line in down the street. Not just patchwork. That's an entire line.
That would actually pay for a boring machine. Start replacing the lines ourselves.
So, well, thank you for the.
We can
efforts
name
there.
it the Cindy.
And
If
make sure
Cindy
you
pulls in all
welcome
that
Cindy
money,
for
we'll
us.
call that boring machine Cindy, right? We can name it after.
We're not. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Anyway, so just welcome Cindy to the city, and I agree. Go after those funds.
Yeah.
Tornado.
The CareWorks contract is coming to council. This has been brought forward by Mr. Hunter. His suggestion is CareWorks, they work with our workers' comp claims. We're currently defenseless. And this company, these type of companies are like the brokers for insurance. They basically help represent you, put stuff together. And
So, yeah, I had a question about that. Like, what is that going to cost us compared to like what we're doing now? Or is there like going to be an unseen cost?
I actually don't know the answer. I haven't seen the agreement yet.
It shouldn't be. It's usually not a very expensive cost, and it's not any type of hidden fee. They do send you a bill for it, so you'll know what that amount will be.
So can we find out like the fees and everything before we just start that down? Or
Yeah, and it might even, maybe this is super naive and somebody listening will know better, but I thought it was paid in with the workers' comp premiums. And so their goal as CareWorks as a company is get your premiums down by having representation on workers' compensation, which our premiums are they're not the worst, but they're pretty high.
Mhm.
And so what CareWorks' pitch is, hey, if we lower your premium by, $3,000 a month, but our premium is $1,000 a month, you save 2,000, I think. But I haven't seen the agreement, so I don't.
Hey, could we find out the agreement before we just say, sure, yeah, let's do it? And
Yep.
then we find out we're paying 5,000 extra than.
Mm.
Did we
we
just
thought.
lose a workman's comp case because we didn't have representation?
One is lost and another one's in the hopper.
Well, hopefully it won't take long to.
Not the whole.
Yeah, no, you'll save money because of having CareWorks. That's how I use.
So I think, yeah, because I think your rate comes down.
Mhm.
And they have, in my what he was pitching to, what I saw on some crossed emails was he had a very specific number he expected our premium to come down, so he could show the 12-month savings versus the premium. Like I said, it was like I haven't seen the agreement itself. I don't even know if I could read it. I mean, I can read it. I don't know if I'm qualified to digest it and
Justin
explain it.
answered in one of those emails about,
Mhm.
that's who they use.
Yeah, they use them too, yeah.
Yes, they're a very reputable company.
We had comp management was allowed to expire last year for whatever
It
reason.
just doesn't seem reasonable though to okay something that we haven't even read the contract yet.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I agree.
Well, maybe we can get that emailed out.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Let me make sure I'm caught up here. The only other thing was I didn't know if council had questions now that we're halfway through the year on revenues and expenses.
The only question I have is the income tax one now, which was the big one, what we weren't sure.
Yep.
How that was gonna pan out, so, and that was what our question is online, so, why don't we hit that one?
Yep. So income tax day passed July 15th for anyone who filed months ago and kind of forgot about it. It was extended to the 15th by the feds. It was a very busy week. I'm very glad to have my first one behind me. A couple of things. I have probably $10,000 of folks who filed that they owe us money, but didn't include payment. So that's actually pretty good. I mean, in my opinion, those folks are supposed to pay before they file. But I guess what I'm saying is that when you're talking about $2 million in taxes and we're only got outstanding 10,000 we know for sure of right now, pretty good, I think. We're down about same day last year, which is important because that means fully tax season is encompassed in both, plus the withholding payments from companies to the day. We're down about 45,000 total income tax collection. So it's a $1.89 million collection for the year, I believe. The good thing is council made the move to, change from 15% to 5% in capital improvements. Bad news for capital improvements, good news for the general fund. The income tax adjustment down hasn't impacted the general fund. It's been all absorbed by capital improvement. Considering it's one of the biggest economic disruptions, it's pretty close to last year.
Well, in our city, more than most,
Yeah.
so.
And there are businesses who I have not received a tax filing from, meaning a withholding from their employees since the shutdowns originally started, because we still have businesses that haven't reopened, meaning not just inside of Nelsonville, but businesses outside of Nelsonville where residents work at, and they withhold the tax and they send it here, so they don't have to pay it all at the end. So I would have liked it to have beat last year. I would like to also think that we probably did do better on collections, but that the drop was maybe more precipitous from some of these closed businesses.
I think COVID did have a big effect on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not supposed to talk specifics. There have been some large employers where there's no news of layoffs, but the amount of hours worked is definitely got to be different because withholdings are down 10, 15% from some of them. I know in the news I read Hocking College may have some programs shuttered for the school year,
I think
which
they're just, I don't think they're gone completely. I think they're just
right delayed or
delayed,
something.
Yeah, like their
I don't know if
football
that'll-
season's just going, like spring ball.
postponed or something,
Right.
you know.
And I don't know what it looks like, right? Because this isn't really our wheelhouse, but if you close the dorms for the year, if you have 10 staff there, do they get hours elsewhere or what happens to folks like that? So, we're not out of the woodwork, but
Mhm.
I think we've been fortunate. The weak spots property taxes have been nearly identical. Sales tax has been nearly identical. Gas tax versus last year, we had 81,000 collected as of today, last year. As of today, this year, we've collected 100,000. So we're up from last year, but the gas tax almost doubled. So at this point, we would have hoped to have almost 160,000. So that's, if you
We're
could.
more, but yeah, we're not where we anticipated.
Yeah, we're not traveling either.
Right,
Yeah.
the,
COVID, another COVID thing shut it
without
down.
the gas tax increase, we would have had a sharp decline, I would think.
What are we getting from the state on that gas tax? I mean, we're still owed a certain amount from them, aren't we?
Well, yeah, we get the gas tax from the state. So if you see on your fuel pumps, it says their gas tax is 30 cents in Ohio, maybe, and it says right on like 18 of it goes to the locality that you're currently
I thought
standing
they
in.
upped to that though, and we were expected to get an additional 61,000.
We are, yeah. So that's, I think it was almost 70. So that's where I kind of mean by at this point last year, we had 81. We're at 100, but the gas tax doubled this year. So we would have hoped to have received almost double where we were last year. So to me, the shortfall is around 50 to 60,000 to be pretty hefty by the end of the year, close to 80, 90, 100. So gas tax, just keep that in mind. And then it's really hard to talk about pool revenue. It's been strong, but we had delays and it's a COVID year. So I don't even know if it's worth comparing opening a month later. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you can't really compare anyway from.
No.
Right, I'm not
Previous
really
years,
fair.
What was the actual question on there, Scott? Are we even
How much
remotely close to?
How much was brought in from income tax?
this year? Give me just a second. I had the number in my office, but I didn't write it down on my paper, so I brought it over. $873,000 so far.
Does that,
That includes withholding.
is there, I don't know, is there anybody else that owes us money there, or is that accounted for in that?
It's not accounted for in that. So I would say on the books, we're still owed about 10,000 people who filed and said, I still owe you $100, but I haven't paid yet. There's probably a significant portion of people who did not file as in past years, and that's now our office's job for the next 6 months.
Now,
Find them.
yeah, so that was going to be my next question. So since we are not moving forward with a program like RITA currently, what is going to be our method of, trying to go after some of those dollars that are, owed that people are trying to, skip out on?
Yep. It's much more difficult, I'll tell you that. So employers are supposed to report W-2s for any employee that works or lives in the city of Nelsonville. Meaning if you live in Nelsonville and you work in Lancaster, we still should get your W-2. That's whether you want it to go to us or not. We have, what happens is employers don't sit there and pick through their Nelsonville residents to send to Nelsonville. They send you the whole thing. So think of some major employer like, I don't even know.
You're saying they send it to the individual, the employee.
They send it to the employee, and they're required to send it to their tax jurisdiction too.
Okay.
So what companies do is they prepare these huge packets. I mean, they were big, thick, some of them were boxes. Think of companies with 5,000 employees in Columbus. We might have 3 people that work there. They send us the whole gambit of W-2s.
Oh.
And it will be easy enough to find that person's W-2, to use that W-2 and say, we've got this W-2, but in the software, there's no tax filing. I don't think this person filed with us. The problem is the paperwork. So the reason it was easier for RITA is they do it all electronic and they handle it. They compare against state records and their computer just spits out. These 300 people didn't file for you, and now we're going after them. For us, we're going to go through 30,000 W-2s to find 100 to 300 people and put them in the system and compare whether they file or not. There's a lot of time.
And then once they're in there,
and I'm not just trying to shill for RITA again because it would be much easier. But
that'll also be potentially harder, more difficult the first year.
Yeah.
But once they're in the system, that would be a little easier going forward. Then the only thing you'd have to worry about is potentially new people moving in or moving out kind of thing.
So you have a
Rita was very good about when you move, you change your tax situation with your employer. They report it to the state. State pings Rita's inbox and says, "Hey, you have a resident that moved into Nelsonville. They used to live in Athens, and here you go." State tells Rita that every month. They do not tell us that. And they never will tell the cities that because the state wants to take over income
Right.
tax collection for the cities. They want to make our job harder.
Correct.
So we're going to have to come up with a system. It's probably going to be tied to water bills. If you start a water account, you need to register an income tax account. And it's just going to take some time. The W-2 is the key. I mean, if your employer reports income to us and you didn't file with us. That's a non-filing fee, and we know where you live. That sounds scary, but it's on the W-2. We're gonna mail you, and
Really, we're sending the short.
we're gonna mail you, and we're gonna call you, and whatever. We're gonna say, hey, you owe us money. But it's much harder because if we're going through AT&T's W-2s for all of Central Ohio, I'm digging through 5,000 W-2s to find the 2 Nelsonville residents that works for AT&T. Is that a great use of my time? Probably not, but it's what's the option. So,
I'm sorry, was you done?
with the checklist,
Yes.
almost done. The last thing was, since we talked about water and sewer, I just want to talk about water and sewer collections. We would hope to be around 60% for water and sewer. We've completed a billing cycle for July. We're moving into August, so we can make big assumptions for July. We'd like to be around 60%. By now, we're at 53 in water. So we're still, I think I said last council meeting, I was expecting 8 to 14% shortfall for the year. And we're looking at that. Sewer fund is our problem child. We have collected 45% of what we've expected. So we're looking at 20 to 30% shortfall. So we need a good collection process soon. Because we've got big $250,000 sewer plant payment starting next year, 2 years. And that's all I had.
Thank you.
Yep, I know it was a lot.
That's okay. This helped. Following along. I like lists. So the police and fire stuff, I don't remember what it was.
If I recall it, and I don't remember what the committee decided, but the only request for funds in there was training. If you guys wanted to allocate X amount of dollars to do the state minimum training for.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think,
Yeah.
we talked about still getting.
One was like 650, one was 425. Yeah, I have them written down at home.
If my memory serves me correctly, it was roughly $2,300.
Between like 4 trainings, that's about
That's
right.
correct. And that's just bare minimum for the state, not any nice it's not any of the fun nicety trainings. That's
But that was just to get our officers trained,
Yeah, because then
Yes.
they can train
then get them
in-house.
certified, and then we can train them out. So,
That's all the general fund? Is that
okay
correct?
for that for appropriation.
I am too.
Is that the general fund?
Does that come out of general fund?
I'm sorry, which
Training.
departments?
$2,300 out of general to police training.
Okay.
And police has their own training line.
2,300.
Appropriations Monday night.
Will we have legislation for the new policy that we discussed with the fees for like new employee fees? Will that be completed by then, or maybe the next council meeting?
I suspect that'll be the next council meeting. I know what we did with our 2 hires that we have now. We went with the draft we have currently and already informed them that it'll likely change and we'll have to get their signature again.
Okay, perfect.
Which those guys have done a good job. So I think one day that one of the new guys that's on day shift, he got a speeding ticket, a parking ticket. And then the other, so challenging one another, you know, the newbie stuff. So
Good, good.
they're pretty amped up to work here.
I'm excited to have them.
Sure.
You wanna wait?
It's
Well,
good.
you already said something, so now you can't say
I know,
something.
but it's the good news.
Huh?
Are we done on the
Then
You
police?
have to do that
So
out in the
the
hall.
only other thing
Wait.
that's, the only other thing, and I know we've kind of, I don't, the 28,000 for the GIS system from the water and sewer fund.
The tracking.
So
Was the plan to transfer it from the Hawking thing as it originally was, or is that a different idea? Or?
As it was, so we appropriated a certain amount, and if we would do the other way, it's gonna be like half. So we'd be able to get that tracking system because we've already appropriated the money
Correct.
to the board.
correct. So what I would like to do, based off the current quote we have now, the current quote we have now is roughly 33,000. I would not want to shrink that 60,000 down to 33,000 completely. I would like a contingency in there just in case something pops up.
Well, you should have a 10% contingency.
I was thinking, well, so in addition to the 10% contingency, there's also, and it's not oyster, what is it, the
Clam?
clam, something, it's roughly $2,000 for them to do a study of the mussels.
Mussels.
Yeah, that's it, mussels in the area. So, so
No.
40,000 right now should maintain that. So it would be safe to say, I don't remember how much we appropriated. I think it was 60, but it might have only been 58. But whatever the difference is from that amount down to 40,000, and then the remainder, roughly 10,000, would have to come from somewhere else.
Where can we get it from though?
Well, it'd be water and sewer, so I mean, it would be strictly from those funds, because that's the only thing it services.
Is there a sewer line that runs down there? Because if it's not, we would have to strictly say water.
Sewer line for,
Down under the
So
river.
the GPS would
Or
be
the-
part of it.
Yeah.
Will be
I see.
For mapping the sewer and,
Project, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
So, yeah,
misunderstood.
I was gonna say, but part of that money was already appropriated from the water, so we might be able to appropriate
the 10 from sewer.
sewer.
That makes sense. Yep.
is
Got
our
it.
sewer fund healthy enough to appropriate 10
Yeah,
grand?
that's the one you said is the problem child right now, so,
Maybe you could do 5 and 5.
yeah, you could do that.
If the expense is truly, just for clarity, if the expense is truly a water sewer expense as far as 50/50, it should be split 50/50.
Because-
If
so
not,
you're-
it really is.
You're mapping both of them.
So you could pull 14,000 from that project back, just leave the remainder there, and whatever we don't use, and then you would need 14,000 from sewer.
It is our problem child, yes.
But that's, you're saying on the collections side right now, but not necessarily on payments, right? I mean, people are still active, but we just have a lot of back
We do.
collections that we need to.
The sewer fund stands to benefit, so I don't know if it's state law or just the software. Our software typically follows state law. They automatically upload the rules for us, so we don't have to, read state legislation for water, sewer, and income taxes. And the software forces, what's an example? Person owes us $400, $200 to water, $200 to sewer, $400 water bill, and they come in and they pay $200. It only applies to the water portion first. So these collections stand to benefit towards the sewer fund. So it is. It's a fund that's hurting. Collection actually for sewer bills is less than last year, even though rates have gone up 12% since then. So that shows you the degree to which we have people not paying bills around the edges, or just not using water, or both possibly.
Right.
I mean, yeah, if council passes it, we can spend it, but we just want to make sure we watch it going forward,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, so then, yeah, I'm okay with the funds though for that camera and GIS GPS system, so.
I think it'll be useful.
Oh, I think it'll be incredibly useful.
It's a massive efficiency. It comes down to where, eventually we'll get every valve in the city marked, and we won't have to count on somebody knowing where the last valve was. And in addition to that, we'll know where they're at, maintenance them, and then, just have records on them at all times, which is an EPA requirement. However, by actually maintaining those, we'll, in theory, have a lot less broken valves. We have some intersections, Cross Street to be exact. I think there's 5 or 6 valves in the street there, but only one of them works.
Right.
You know, that kind of stuff is what we will be able to clean up all that.
Yeah, because we got to cap those ones that aren't being, that are just, when they put new valves in, they just put them beside the ones and do unmark them or cap them off. So you gotta know where you're shutting off.
So now if you have a break in the middle of the night, you'll be able to pull it up on your phone. It should spit out the coordinates, wander around, boom, this is the valve, and you can look up all the valves. And if I understand correctly, it'll be on a map as well. And then that way, you know where you're going, instead of wandering around and opening and shutting valves until you get the leak to stop. I mean, literally, that's what they do a lot of times. They're opening up hydrants over here, shutting valves off over here, just trying to figure out how to isolate leaks that waste time and water. So,
Did we have any more questions or comments online?
let's see, there was one comment about landlords need to turn in tenants for taxes. I'm not really sure how that works. There was another one about construction workers should pay when working in the city, and I can promise you, we hunt them down every meeting. Taylor goes with me. And especially for the grant ones, they're required to turn in how much they paid their employees. It's the term I'm thinking of, premium wage, not prevailing wage.
Yeah.
They have to turn in those records to
Yes.
prove back to the grant supplier. So we are able to take those records and QC them.
Do we have a contractor's registration and a starter packet, so when a new contractor comes in town, you register with the city, here's your packet, this is what's expected of you? Do we have anything
I
like
haven't
that?
looked through your packet, or is that one of Becky's packets?
It's not mine.
There
We
was a
have a
packet.
contractor registration form, a packet explaining that your work in the city, I think it's 7 days in a month or 21 in a year. You owe us income taxes for that work, 1.75%. All that should be explained in a packet. I agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought that we had a packet from the auditor's office for when new businesses came into town, but as far as contractors, I don't
I
think.
think they should be required to register with the city.
So if we catch them, we do. I can tell you those R&R guys doing the gas line, they were annoyed by me because I just kept driving up to them. You guys haven't registered yet. And finally they did it, you know. So anytime we see work going on in the city, you know, we're all out driving around pretty regularly. They do. We absolutely see if they're registered. And he gets random texts all the time. Hey, do we have this company? Do we have this company?
Good.
So we do that when we're out and about.
Do we have any recourse against those if they try to evade us, or?
No, that's fine, isn't it?
Tax evasion for sure. I would say it's harder than a resident, but I don't know. It probably needs more research.
Okay.
It's much easier against a resident.
So far,
Easy to
being
get the
annoying
word,
is
but
very
it's less
efficient.
challenging.
Currently being annoying is very efficient.
Annoying is very effective. We're both good at that. An income tax question today. No offense to the Athens auditors. I reached a few voicemails, Athens City. And when I finally got a hold of somebody, they said, we saw you coming through. We were on the phone. And I was like, I just thought I'd keep trying. I got a hold of somebody.
Persistence.
That's good. Hey, it pays off.
You guys have, oh, I was just going to say, you guys have in your inbox a notice from the state auditor's office in your emails.
Yep.
We
I
are
saw
going
the
to
email.
undergo, and I think it's short phrase is A1. It's an investigative audit.
Saw the email.
We have an investigation. The legislative board is required to be notified. It's a forensic audit on top of our regular audit, on top of the investigation.
We're paying for the forensic audit.
We pay for all of it. But we don't pay for the investigation. But yeah, right. We pay for everything else.
Pointless comment, but it's amazing to me that the organization can look at us and say, you need our services, and then charge us for it.
Yep.
We don't really have any say in the matter, but I'm glad they're going to go through it and look at all of it, and then we can have a fresh start going forward. So
Absolutely.
get all the babies out of the closet.
I think it's great too. If I have a few stressful days, I'm sorry in advance. all has created a lot of work for us. Some days are 60 to 70% getting documents to outside agencies, which makes our regular jobs very hard. But the sooner they start, the sooner they're done. So
When are we gonna have a number? Because we need to put a number to a mechanics lien before
To the what?
assets start getting transferred out of somebody's name.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't- The investigation will come up with one from the state. That one will probably take longer than what goes through the court system.
So I would just make sure, again, persistence, so we get that
The
number.
council, and particularly the finance committee, is going to have to get really as up to speed. I mean, I'm not trying to sound pretentious, but as up to speed as Scott and I and the investigators on what our recourses are, because it is it okay to say it's very unlikely that the state will force any money back into our hands? And whatever they find
We'll have
out,
to pursue it, no doubt.
we will have, exactly.
Mhm.
Any money, any restitution from any alleged fraud or theft, we will probably have to do ourselves with our own attorney with our own efforts,
Yep.
including bonds of prior officials and civil action
Correct.
court.
So, and I think we can run it to judiciary, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say there's a pretrial hearing August 4th if it's still scheduled. I would, it could be the 5th. I just remember the first week of August, but I thought it was the 4th. I don't know. You might be right.
Citywide offsite that day. I'm just kidding. We're not going there.
So
Oh,
yeah, I would
I'm
say,
packing a lunch that day.
I would say, I've been told these investigations around the state typically end in pleas. The fact that we're starting the process means we're very close to getting probably to that outcome. I'm just speaking from like the deputy auditor in Limo just pled to $300,000 in theft. And
So do we have enough information that we can have a judiciary meeting before the August 4th or 5th date, or?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
How do I answer this?
Just
I
to-
bet Hunter would advise to
No.
wait for some finality
Okay.
so that there's no
We should
bias.
talk to an attorney, Hunter or somebody, about our recourse. What can we do to start locking up some assets? Because, the city needs to come first, because we're the ones that got right.
Mhm.
It's my personal feeling, unless there's a legal thing that I don't know or understand, I think the city would be very smart. And would it be completely outside of my wheelhouse? Would be you and guys and Hunter, as a full council manager and Hunter, to be ready for civil action like the week of a plea or a conviction.
Right,
Agreed.
so I mean, yeah, so
And that would
we
include,
need to, because apparently it's gonna take a while to get an actual number.
So have a meeting scheduled on the
But,
7th or
but,
something?
I mean, so we need to contact or talk to an attorney that can tell us or guide us, what can we do to lock up some assets without a final number?
Because we probably won't have a
We
whole
will
lot of
probably-
information the 5th, right?
in these cases, I've also been told by some of the folks I've worked with, because sometimes there are two sets of numbers. One is what goes to the courts, and one is what the state says is actually gone. You can go after both. It just, one you go after first, and one you go after next, when the full number, you know what I'm saying? So maybe an individual might, in like the Lima's case, plead to 100,000, but the state said she actually took 300. So you go after the one first, and then you finish the job, if that makes sense. I would definitely look up researching that Lima case. It was a long one, 2 years. And it's different, but similar, I'll say. That's the harder news. The good news is I've been working personally with the state to get us in compliance with all these myriad of tax issues we've had. My understanding is this week I have finished the last form from before my time. I've been told that 2 or 3 times, but I think we're there. The last filing, the last form, the last quarterly, the last yearly, I'm pretty sure we're done. It looks really good for us. We not only are owed refunds, so the state's process is if you fail to file, they assume you owe them money. They might actually owe you money. And this is for withholding taxes, I should say. So you need to file with the state. We withheld 10,000 in state taxes. We paid you 9. So we're squaring up today. We're going to give you 1,000 and we'll be square. 10 owed, 10 paid. If you don't pay, if you don't file, the state just assumes, well, you owed us 12 in the past and we're charging you 12. So here's a assessment is what it's called. Plus fines, fees, penalties, and all that stuff. Interest. That is what we paid earlier in the year, $20,000 to the state to get our books clear so that we could move forward on the sewer plant and the police cruisers, all the liens against the city. So once finishing all this tax paperwork, it turns out almost all those filings we owed, we actually were owed small refunds of $100 to $500 for all of them, but over 8 years, added up. And then we owed a refund of, I hope, around 5, 6, 7,000. And the tax department, I worked with a special case manager or something, some person I hope we never have to work with again. She's an amazing person, but we shouldn't have to work with this department at the state tax department. She advised that I put in writing a request for an abatement of some of that 20,000 we paid, and I put in the request for all of it, and that addressed it all the way to the tax commissioner, the governor's appointee. So I put right in there, I don't believe these fines, fees, penalties, interest serve a public purpose. I don't think the taxpayer of Nelsonville should have to pay fines on somebody's alleged theft, fraud, and failure to file. It's kind of double taxation to them. They have to pay the employee who has to pay the taxes, then we have to pay the city to pay the fines on the employee. And it looked good, she said. Our chances of getting most of it back looked good.
Good.
So we're hoping by the fall, maybe $20,000, $30,000. And the feds are up next. That's the big one.
Yeah.
So,
But that's a great victory, you know. I mean, we've had so many expenses pop up as a result of this, and you know, it's just nice to get some of that back. And luckily, you know, the folks are working with us and understand kind of the situation. So I'm really glad that Taylor was able, and hopefully we get a check for more than we gave them. You know.
yeah, when we started the process. Donna's her name. Donna said it was possible you could get, you know, a few thousand back out of 20. And we ended with, we think we could get, you know, the lion's share plus what we were originally owed in refunds. We didn't owe them, we were actually owed refunds. We paid too much. She said the chances were pretty good. So they're moving on it. And I think they see now that their people have been here, it's been a long process, it's been 5 months.
Right.
And their people have been here for 5 months, the investigators, the state auditors, and I think they're starting to see we're doing our best to do the job right and going above and beyond what I think even cities around here do on a day-to-day basis. We're now trying to be the model.
Great.
And I think that's bought us goodwill. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Anything
good
else?
news.
I don't have anything.
Everybody good?
I'm good.
Okay, we will adjourn at 8:45.